Welcome to the Power Couples Toolbox, hosted by Nathan and Lacey Bird. Seeing the high rate of divorce and the different ways relationships are under attack today, the Toolbox has created a network where relevant information can be accessed, communities can be formed, and transformation can take place.
It is our goal to supply you with valuable tools and resources to help you and your relationship thrive and to connect you with other power couples around the world.
The Power Couple Toolbox is your marriage resource center, so join us for this next episode. Has there ever been a scenario in your relationship where you were triggered by your spouse and it really caught you off guard? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Nathan Bird, and this is my lovely wife, Lacey.
So, triggers are when a person, place, thing, or event will immediately snap you from one emotional and physical state to another. So if you've ever been in conversation or your spouse did something or even just looked a certain way and it triggered you, and it actually triggered back to a seed trauma that happened earlier on in your life that created a core memory. So what happens is we are in a scenario in today, and when we get triggered, our emotions and feelings don't match the current environment. So we're snapping back into where that trigger came from rather than responding to the event, person, place, or thing with today's resources.
A moment that I'm triggered when she will come up to me and be like, Nate, I think you're mad, or she'll assume that I'm something that I'm really not. And that really just boils down to her or me understanding how she is taking the perspective or the perception of how I feel at that moment, which can really cause a disconnect in the communication amongst us both.
So what he's talking about is we'll experience times, and we've heard of other couples going through the same thing, so it's not just us, but we'll experience times where he'll be very much in his head. So he won't be talking, he won't be super responsive, and it's very obvious that he's not present. And my initial response is because of my own triggers of disconnect. Disconnect is a trigger for me. So when I'm experiencing, emotionless, disconnected, non-responsive, it triggers me back to, I need to fix this situation. I need to get back to that connection. And so what happens is I assume that he's mad. I assume that his disconnect means that he's mad. And so then I ask him, are you mad? Why are you mad? And I'm trying to get to the bottom of why he's mad, but ultimately it's communicating that he's not actually mad in that moment. He's just not able to express the feelings that he is having in that moment.
Many times that's just frustrating for me, and then it actually makes me want to close off even more. So if I'm not actually expressing certain feelings that she's expecting for me to express, and then she assumes that I'm mad, it actually even puts me further away from expressing what I want to express or what she wants me to express.
Well, ultimately, it's just seeking that connection. And that's the thing about triggers is, for myself, I had a lot of triggers growing up. And I didn't even know I was being triggered, but I was living in a constant state of fight or flight because I was holding on to, I was like constantly focused on the past and the explosions in the past, and I was anticipating the ones that were going to happen in the future, and I was not in the present moment at all. And so when you insert that into a relationship, then of course everything that they're doing is going to trigger you in some way because you're like, you're getting too close. What are you doing? I don't know how to react to this. And you're constantly in that survival state. And in order to get out of it, you have to create a sense of self-awareness, of understanding where those triggers are actually coming from. And so at the root of it is understanding, and I would encourage you, if this sounds like you, and if you experience this in your relationship, if you ever feel like you're at a point where you guys are just like reacting off of each other in a cycle, and you're just like neither of you wants to be doing it. Neither of you wants to be reacting that way to each other, but it's like he'll do something that causes a reaction in me, and then my reaction will cause a reaction in him, and then we're just like over here like fighting back and forth like two double-sided magnets. And when in reality what we both really want is that to be heard and to be understood and to
Hmm.
be known and to have that connection. And so when we can create that self-awareness of why am I feeling this way? And so like almost slowing down time, the way I like to describe it is like you're able to be in the moment and recognize that something's triggering you, but you're able to slow everything down and assess what am I feeling right now? Being able to actually associate what feeling you're feeling in that moment, and being able to understand why you're feeling that way. And so it's not something that changes overnight. I mean, I would say over the last, probably 5 years has been for me personally really transformational of being able to be in the present moment a lot more and being able to slow down time and when I do get triggered, being able to recognize that, being able to recognize how I'm feeling, slow down the physiological response, like slow down my breathing, slow down my heart rate, calm everything back down, bring myself back into the moment, but I don't dismiss how I'm feeling. I recognize why am I feeling this way, and then later on during a workout or while I'm painting or while I'm doing something, I'll kind of reassess why did I respond that way? And if you have a sense of curiosity about why you're reacting the way that you're reacting, then you can actually change that rather than expecting, like, if I'm just expecting him to act differently so that I don't get triggered. I think a lot of times in relationship, we want the other person to change what they're doing so that I don't react that way, right? Instead, if we look at how do I take ownership of my own triggers so I can change my response to him.
It's important to understand, like you said, at that precipice of do I engage in this conversation and how do I engage in this conversation and in what way is it going to be more aggressive? Are you going to fight fire with fire or are you going to, like you were saying, seek to understand and then also assess and audit your current activity or the reaction and then also your physiological response. I just wanted to note that once again
Mm,
you said it prior, but it's important for us to understand our heart rate, to understand if are we actually going to start sweating because we want to respond so quickly to that person. So it's really important for us in that moment to take a second and pause. Just like you said, it's almost like you're in the Matrix. Okay?
yeah.
You just want to be in the Matrix. You want to just be like, all right, what's going
Slow
on here?
motion.
Because it takes one person in that scenario to really slow things down.
Mm.
Because if one person is very loud
The
and
other
and
person
clearly
reacts,
the
yeah.
aggressor, then that other person needs to take it upon themselves to help to bring things down a notch. So, what would you suggest people out there to do moving forward?
Okay, I will answer that. First, I want to go back to the physiological response because you brought it up again. Of um, that's one reason why I love fitness so much and being able to on a daily basis kind of push and manipulate the state of my body and being able to push it to its limits because in moments like this where you are triggered, and I mean what's happening in your body, it's not just a mental thing. Like if you've been triggered before, you know that your heart rate immediately, like 0 to 100, like something like poked you and it just your heart rate elevates, you start sweating, you maybe get tense, shaky, like your body goes into, and your frontal cortex is hyperactive now, and you are fully in the moment, you're present, you're focused, but you're in survival mode. And so um you're not thinking things through all the way, right? You're just reacting, surviving, and then you feel bad about it later. And so being able to be better and have better self awareness is not just mental self awareness, but also physical self awareness. Because when you can calm your body down, that's how you get to that place of like slowing things down, is because you're able to manually kind of de escalate your
Hmm.
response and lower your heart rate. But what I want to say is that we have steps. So we'll lay this out nice and easily in steps. So I don't have an acronym like you do,
Mhm.
but I have numbers. So when you're in a place where you're triggered, and I want to preface this with saying that allow yourself grace and in recognizing this, and don't do it with shame of, man, I'm just a horrible person, I can't control my reactions and I always feel bad about it later. Instead, approach yourself with a sense of curiosity, because it's not going to change overnight, and it's going to take you, maybe even years to really get to a place of like full control and being able to communicate. But it's about the process, and it's about recognizing it, and that's actually step 1. So when you find yourself triggered and all of a sudden you're recognizing, okay, my heart rate is elevated, right? I'm tense. I just immediately changed my state, like I was fine in this conversation, and then all of a sudden I was like hyperactive. And that's the first step, is recognizing it and having that little ping in your head of saying, okay, this is a trigger. Like, this isn't reality. I'm experiencing something else right now. I'm experiencing emotions that don't match this environment. And so when you're experiencing those emotions, it's important to take note and recognize it, create that self-awareness. And then number 2 is acknowledge your feelings. So acknowledging your feelings with curiosity is saying that, okay, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling afraid. Whatever you're feeling in that moment is okay. Don't do it with shame, do it with curiosity. Why do I feel scared in this moment when all he did was this, or all he said was that, or whatever? Like, it didn't make sense and it didn't match. So have curiosity of, why do I feel this way? And then go into a place of, like you said, get out of the dark room and immediately reframe your focus to the positive traits about your spouse and yourself. So immediately get yourself into a positive state by remembering, okay, what were the good things? What are the good things? And always have those on the tip, like on the edge, right? So that you're not having to go 10 years back to the last time you thought something good about them. Make sure that you're constantly having that gratitude and being aware of that. And then from there, you want to be able to, if you need to take more time, great. But then you want to be able to come to a place where you can communicate that with your spouse. So recognizing, I'm feeling triggered, I need to take a step back, and then coming back and saying, this is what I was feeling in this moment. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong. This is what I was feeling when you said this. Don't come at it from a place of, you make me react this way. I've heard people say that. You make me get this angry and be abusive. You make me do this. And you can't put that on the other person. You have to take ownership of your own reaction and your own response to things. And then being able to communicate that is so important, coming from a non-resentment, non-critical place of, when this happened, this was the feeling that immediately came up in me, and I think that this is where it came from. And then ask for help. So if you can't have those kind of conversations with your spouse, or if you can't even get to the bottom of what you're feeling or why, ask for professional help. Get help from somebody that can help you better understand yourself, because addressing those things, those memories, those feelings, those are so important because they do affect you today.
A lot of really good information there, and I hope you guys can take action on those 5 simple steps that I'll reiterate to you. It's recognize or be self-aware, acknowledge with curiosity, remind yourself of who you once were.
No, remind yourself of their best qualities.
Let's see, communicate with your partner, and then ask for help. So guys, if you like this podcast and also the video, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as listen more on the Power Couple Toolbox podcast.